Hello friends, very good morning to all of you. So friends, welcome back to Anthropology PYQ series. So let's try to decode every question and let's master every concept. So friends, as a part of our PYQ discussion series, so as of now we have done almost around 46 questions and now we are on 47th question and 47th day. So in today's discussion also, let's take up a question and let's try to look how to proceed with the approach and how to write answer for the question, right? So what am I expecting from you is you have to solve and you have to write answers for the question. So that is our objective. So try to keep writing answers also for the question. Right friends, so let's begin the discussion and let's look at the question of the day with us. So as I've said you, so today is on 47th day. So on day 47, we have this question. Look at the question now. Identify the contemporary limitations in the process of tribal development and how can anthropological knowledge contribute in this process. So this is the question that is there with us. So this is a very simple as well as straightforward and direct question in paper 2. So where you can see a unit say the role of anthropology in tribal development. So this is the section from where the question has been picked and the question has been given, right? So let's try to proceed ahead and let's try to know how we can write answers for the question. There, in the very basic introduction, so what you have to say, you should say about what is tribal development. So what is the entire process of tribal development and nature of the tribal development. Then you have to just systematically mention what are the contemporary limitations in this process. After that, in the second part of your body, you have to mention role of anthropology in tribal development. So this is where and this is how you should approach and you should proceed towards this particular question. So is that clear with the approach? So that's one important aspect. So this is one thing. Right. So this is one thing. So now let us proceed with the answer part of the question. So I hope you're clear with the approach. So what you have to do, introduce with what is tribal development. Then in the first part of answer, so keep the subheading stating that contemporary challenges in the limitation or contemporary challenges or limitations in tribal development and role of anthropology in tribal development. Then conclude the answer. So in this process, what is basically tribal development? So when we talk about tribal development, so tribal development, it's nothing but it's the process of socio-economic as well as educational upliftment of the tribals. So be it could be in social arena, be it could be in cultural arena, be it could be in economic arena, or be it could be in educational arena. So when we try to uplift the tribals so that they can reach heights in these parameters, so that is basically nothing but tribal development. But when we talk of this process, this is a very complex process because there are so many intricacies that are there in this process because of the nature of the tribes. So that is one important aspect that we should keep in mind. Now, apart from this, so what are the various issues or what are the various contemporary challenges that are hampering this process of tribal development? So that is the key demand of the question, one part, right? So can you text some of the problems or contemporary problems faced by the tribals? So in the chat box so that we can take up that points also for the discussion. So just text the problems faced by tribals in the comment section. Whatever it comes on your way, you can just mention and represent them. So, contemporary limitations. Contemporary limitations or contemporary problems. So, when we look at the point of the issues faced by the tribals in the contemporary times, there were so many problems. So let's see first. So very good. So first response that we are getting is good. So Vinushree. So land alienation Very good, exactly. So land delineation is one of the important challenge that is faced by the tribals. So there we can take up the first point is this one only. So first you can mention about the problem of land alienation. So what is land alienation? Land alienation basically refers to it's a process where the tribals they themselves will become alienated from their own lands because of various approach or like various encroachment activities. Say if you want to construct a developmental project, say we need to lay a road or we need to just construct a dam. In that case, so we will displace the tribals. So where they themselves will become the aliens of their land. So they have to be moved. So that is where. So this process will be accompanied with another important challenge, that is development induced displacement. Development induced displacement. So this is one important aspect. So development induced displacement. So just a while. So this is one important thing. So there we can take up that. So furthermore, if we see, so we can have the other important things. So what are the other important issues? So yes, unskilled, right, lack of technical knowledge, okay, right. So what are the most important problems that we can mention? So land alienation is one important thing that we can consider. Then this is accompanied by developmental displacement. That is another important thing. Then in the process of tribal development, the next important challenge or contemporary limitations that we have is tribals has very low literacy levels and low access to the education. So that is another important problem. So educational point of view, so we can say that. So low literacy rates, and educational awareness. So this is another important limitation or problem that is faced by the tribes in the process of tribal development. That means if you want to develop some community, so first and foremost thing is that we have to educate them. If their education levels are less, so then they may not get further things. So if they want to culturally develop, they need education. If they want to economically develop, they need education. If they want to develop in all spheres, so education is very, very important. So as of now, if we see, almost around 8.6% of the population of tribes are there in India. But all of them, if we constitute, so the literacy rates of the tribes is just around 59%. So this is very low than when compared with the mainstream people. So that's why, so this is one another limitation or one another issue in the process of tribal upliftment or tribal development, right? So then, did we get any other thing? Very good. So Sampath Kumar is talking about superstitions, right? So instead of superstitions, what we can say is primitive style of living, primitive lifestyle and primitive cultural aspects. So we can say that as one thing. So culturally they have primitive ways of living. So that is another important thing. So we can consider that primitive ways of life. Particularly if we talk from their cultural habits, so they have unique cultural traditions, customs and religious beliefs and practices. So most of them will follow those things and they may sometimes become an issue and they may become hindrance in the process of development, right? So they believe that the land, this forest is their land and they believe that so they have to live here only and all such kind of things. So if you want to displace them or like displace them, so they won't leave that particular place. So that becomes another issue. So then any other things, any other points that you're mentioning? So let's see. So no, we haven't got any other recommendations. Like furthermore, so If you look from the perspective of other limitations, so other limitations include, so we can talk from the perspective of the health care aspects. So when we see and when we talk from the health care aspects, so health is one of the important problems. So low health care awareness and low access to health care facility. Access to health care facilities. It is very low. So this is another important thing. So if you strategically look at the health parameters of the tribal people, so in realm of health, so their health parameters are very low. So be it could be the mortality rates, or be it could be the life expectancy, be it could be the maternal mortality rate or infant mortality rate, or access to the hospitals, or all those things due to their geographical isolation. So there we can see that is another important aspect, right? So then any other points, can you just pitch those things? So this is another important thing. So that means poor or inadequate healthcare and nutrition. So that is another important thing. So there you can mention, and inadequate nutrition also. In terms of nutritional aspect also, they'll be just there. Then think from the economic point of view, economic aspects point of view. So if we systematically see from tribals, there is a kind of economic marginalization we can see. Can you able to catch that? So economically they are marginalized because they have primitive modes of subsistence. So still some of the tribes are following the primitive modes of subsistence. Say for example, the slash and burn agriculture. Say for example, pastoralism. Say for example, so like hunting and gathering. So still some of the tribes are following that. So from that point of view, this becomes another important thing. Economic marginalization and primitive livelihood style. Primitive livelihood. Primitive livelihood. So that is another important thing. So livelihood issues. So as you were saying, like one student like Vinushree was saying, lack of technical knowledge. So here, due to lack of technical knowledge, so they are becoming economically marginalized because they are not equipped with the skills that are required to be competing with the existing mainstream life. So that is another important thing. So there we can have one issue. Then any other points? Very good. So Sambat Kumar is speaking that. So high fertility and non-awareness of the family planning. Right, good. So this is where like we can talk about there like in education and healthcare facilities. So there what we can say is like weak implementation of the laws or inappropriate, like we can say this, that the governmental initiatives are not reaching to the tribal people. So that is another important thing. So lack of awareness of the health. So here you can mention, so lack of awareness of healthcare. So here healthcare includes these kind of things that you are pitching. So they do not have the awareness of the family planning, such kind of things. So this is one another important aspect, right? So then if you see from the laws, so there were so many laws that have been designed and framed. So what about their implementation? To what extent we are implementing them? So that's another important challenge. Though we have framed laws or legislations, but their implementation is very weak. So this could be another important challenge. So poor implementation of the laws. So poor implementation of the laws or improper. Poor implementation of the laws. So think about some of the laws and legislations. Say, for example, PESA Act. So PESA means Panchayat extension to scheduled areas. So to what extent we could able to implement it? So there are some lacunae. So that is another important issues. Now furthermore, what we can say, good. So we are getting another point. So Vinishwa is saying that often people prone to diseases like sickle cell anemia and malaria, right? So here if you see, when we talk again from healthcare things, so there are certain things like genetic predisposition to diseases. So genetically if you see, so there were some issues that the tribals will face. So certain diseases are more likely to be appeared in the tribes in the genetic ways. So say for example, as you have pitched, it is sickle cell anemia and malaria. So these are some of the common problems that the tribes will face. So this further is this is one another issue that we can take in their things, because health is one of the important aspect if they want to get developed. So that's another thing. So yes, so low per capita in that community. Low per capita in the sense, actually it is because of lack of livelihood opportunities or economic marginalization, low per capita is there. So that's intricate point that we can take, Sampath, right? So then next important thing is that, so forceful assimilation or forceful integration kind of tendencies. So when we formulate the policies, so we need to have cultural sensitivity. So that means lack of cultural sensitivity or cultural insensitivity is another important problem in the tribal development process, right? So this you can have it. So cultural insensitivity in policy making. So when we are making a policy, so obviously we should take the cultural sensitiveness into the criteria. Otherwise, the policies will be more of like a kind of dictatorial kind of policies. We are imposing. So it should not be like imposing something on someone's, like it should be that they have to accept it through their pleasure. So that's another important thing. So there, furthermore, so what other points that we are getting? So there if you see, yes, so problems judgment in local panchayats. So like what we can say, informal, you can say that informal or traditional settlement processes, that we can take it. But it's not a problem, but that's a characteristic of them. So this is one another thing. So there we can have all these kind of things as some of the contemporary limitations. So you can talk things like socially they are backward, culturally they are primitive, educationally they are very poor, like economically they are marginalized, and in other ways, so say for example from in all these parameters they are backward. So all these problems are hindering in the process of the tribal development, right? Now how anthropology helps in this process? So try to text in the chat box, like what is the role of anthropology, how anthropology can help in the tribal development process. So pitch your points so that let's take up and let's discuss them. So most of the points that you have said were relevant. So we have to put them in a systematic fashion and you have to back these points with the data. Say for example, when we talk about healthcare, so bring in the context of National Family Health Survey 5 data. When we talk about literacy rates, bring in the data of literacy rates according to 2011 census. So like that, incorporate the data so that you can give evidence to that. Is that it fine? Now, what about the role of anthropology? Role of anthropology in tribal development. So how anthropology helps in the process of tribal development? This is the topic, our major demand. Now, there could be different approaches where we can take the role of anthropology in tribal development, but here we can have a systematic approach. There, you can take up the different branches. One approach is that you can take up the different branches and you can say how this particular branch will help in tribal development. That's one approach. And other approach is that directly going towards the dimensional approach. Say socially how it will be helpful, economically how this will be helpful, culturally how the anthropology helps in development. That's another approach. So whatever the approach you want to follow, you can follow. So one good approach is proceeding towards incorporating the branch as well as dimension together, right? So what points we are getting? Let's see. So polyandry in their marriage system, okay, so that's an issue. So cultural practice, right? Then tribal villages development by Ministry of Culture, okay, Ekalavya schools for tribal students, okay. Let's proceed in a systematic fashion. How anthropology helps. So when we talk about anthropology, so what is anthropology? Anthropology is basically, it's the systematic and it's the scientific and it's the holistic study of human beings, isn't it? So tribals are also one of the important sections of the humans. So we will also systematically study about tribes in detail in anthropology. There, what do? We try to understand their lifestyle, their culture, their social aspects, all those things in a peculiar way. So there, what anthropologists will do first, anthropologists will do a lot of ethnographic studies. Through these ethnographic studies, there we can systematically understand the culture of the tribes. So when we can understand the culture of the tribes, so after understanding that, if we are framing any policies, so there anthropology helps in policy making in a cultural sensitive way, because when you know the intricacies of the culture, so you can frame the policies accordingly. So first and foremost thing that you can mention is that, so your anthropological knowledge it helps in better policy making. So here policy making means we can make the policies in cultural sensitive way, so that we either do not hurt the sentiments of the people and we will bring them to the developmental sphere also. That's very important thing that we should remember. So here, what are the things that will be helpful? So particularly if we say, so we have so many things, say ethnographic studies. So ethnographic studies. So this will be helpful in systematic understanding of the various socio-cultural and economic aspects of the tribes. Then furthermore, if you see, so usually the field work and the surveys, etc. So all of them will be helpful in this particular initiative. That is one thing, right? So then what other points that we are getting? So let's see. So Ekalavya schools, right? That's one thing. Okay, then how it helps. So if you see from socio-cultural anthropology point of view, so socio-cultural anthropology will help in this entire process. So this would be one important advantage, that the socio-cultural anthropology will help us. Right, friends? So that's one important aspect. Later on, if you see from the perspective of the physical anthropology, in physical anthropology, what do we do? So we will systematically study about various biological aspects. Say health and medicine is one important thing. So epidemiological anthropology is one thing. Ecological anthropology is one thing that we study in physical anthropology. Then we will study various chromosomes and chromosomal aberrations, all of these things. So there, this knowledge helps in improving the healthcare aspects of the tribes. So that is another important input that we can take up. So there, anthropological knowledge helps in the upliftment of health and prevention of diseases. Prevention, comma, treatment of the diseases. So this is another important thing. So where this would be an exclusive advantage from the physical anthropology, because as we have discussed that some of the diseases are genetically predisposed and their prevalence is more in the tribals, isn't it? So here, like, physical anthropological knowledge will help. So that's another important thing. Then if you look from the perspective of the linguistic anthropology, so in linguistic anthropology, when you see, there are so many tribal languages that are under the threat of extinction due to cultural erosion because of the integration of them with the mainstream people. So the knowledge of the linguistic anthropology that helps in preservation of the culture and preservation of the languages and preservation of such kind of things. So there, that is another important thing. So say preservation of culture and heritage. So particularly if you say for example, languages, preservation of languages, you can have it. Example. So this you can take from the advantage of linguistic anthropology. Can you able to catch that? So that's another important thing. So then furthermore, like what we can do. So furthermore, if you see, so the anthropological knowledge that we gain in the entire process of studying the tribes, this helps in formulating the participatory approaches as well as, so we can make them actively participant into this. So be it could be developmental things and all those things for formulation of participatory approaches. Participatory approaches. So this would be another important thing, right? So this is where another important thing that we can take up. Then furthermore, now when we just know the various aspects about tribes, there anthropologists also helps to create awareness among the tribes. They will also try to explain some of the developmental aspects. So anthropological knowledge also helps in advocating the rights and the tribal empowerment. So that is another important point that we can take up. So tribal empowerment through tribal rights advocacy. So this is another important thing that you can take, because anthropology helps in systematic development of, like, we will also get educational awareness, isn't it? So because of the educational awareness that they will get the tribal empowerment also. So this, in that way it helps, right? So that is another important aspect. So there, when we get this, so there we can break some of the stereotypes, some of the like what we can say, we can overcome some of the primitive practices so that are there, some of the primitive practices that are there. So where we can say that these things, like as you were saying, some of the basic stereotypic superstitious beliefs and practices that can be systematically eroded. So this further helps in the process of the tribal empowerment. Is that clear, friends? So that is another important aspect. So there were so many anthropologists who have done excellent works with respect to the tribal. Say for example, our warrior Elvin, so he has systematically done. and say, for example, Sharat Chandra Rai, so S.C. Rai, so they have done. So many tribes have, so many anthropologists have done significant works. So bring in the context of the anthropologists and their works. Anthropologists and their works. So mention this in a systematic fashion. So where link that how this anthropological knowledge helps in the tribal upliftment. That is another important thing that you can do it. Right? So this is one thing with respect to this particular thing. So what are other things that we have got? So mitigate negative impact of change, negative impact of the change. Yes. So we can motivate them, and anthropological knowledge helps in resistance for the change. So we can create awareness, and with this awareness we can do that. Then policy maker for empowerment of women. So right, so empowerment, tribal empowerment and policy making. So this is another important thing. Sustainable and holistic planning. Good. So we can help in the anthropological helps in better policy making and plan making. So this is one thing. Very good. So all of those points are relevant. So try to use some of the case studies or try to incorporate some of the works done by the anthropologists, and you just back up how anthropological knowledge helps in tribal development. So that's how you can conclude, and that's how you can address the question. Right, friends? So any particular doubts in this particular topic? So you can just mention in the comment section. So in the conclusion, you can simply say that, so you can talk about the significance of the anthropology. You can say, as anthropology is the holistic study of man, so when we study about tribals, so it helps in a systematic upliftment of the tribes, particularly with respect to their socio-economic, cultural and educational arenas. So that's where you can just pitch and you can conclude the answer. Right? So that's all for today from my side. So if there is anything, you can just text in the chat box. So, right, hope there are no more doubts. So you can incorporate some more points also, and you can just address the question in a systematic fashion. Okay, so that's all for the day from my side, friends. So we'll meet tomorrow with another important question, and let's discuss that also in a systematic fashion. Meanwhile, what you have to do, try to write answers for the question and try to practice writing. So this is another important thing that you have to do. So that's all from my side. So it's me, your Dr. Suresh Guramkunda, signing off for the day.